For the first time on camera, NASA showed an expression of despair upon receiving the news, feeling the pressure of Mars survival. Calculations showed that Mark's food supply, even when rationed to the last crumb, wouldn't last until the rescue rocket arrived on Mars. Director Sanders piled on the pressure to chief engineer. He demanded shorter deadlines for the delightfully compressed rocket schedule, causing an intimate squabble on the phone. Bruce insisted it was nearly impossible, while Sanders said it concerned more than one astronaut's future. This was about the image of America's glory, and to catch up on the schedule, Bruce had no choice. He had to simplify the pre-launch testing process, and you can imagine what happened. The rocket launched successfully, but suffered a major deviation. It even exploded while crossing the atmosphere, leaving Mark thinking, I might as well have lost a hand. But he had forgiven Lewis because, let's face it, who would think head rocket back under those circumstances? He showed a love for life among teammates, but just when the Western assistants seemed exhausted, the Chinese Space Agency lent a helping hand. This was not motivated by politics, but was deeply rooted in the noble concept of a community with a shared future for mankind. We provided them with the boosters, and to put it bluntly, the Solar God project was unsparingly scrapped. Let's tackle this from the perspective of aerospace, seeking solutions. The super rocket Solar God, I've always wanted to see its true colors. This colossal creation embodies Eastern wisdom and became the secret weapon for the rescue mission. With enormous carrying capacity, it could load sufficient supplies and provide Fuel Guardian support for the NASA space. At this moment, a young NASA astrophysicist proposed a wild idea. Instead of slowing down, the spacecraft would speed up using Earth's gravity, refueling on the fly. This way, they wouldn't just save time, but could bring Mark back home in one go. But Sanders deemed the risk too high, just as the astronauts in space were about to rebel. They collectively rebelled, reverting to the remote control system and forcefully changed the course of the Hermes. They all knew what it meant. Disobeying orders was akin to rebellion, and when they got back to Earth, they might have to clean toilets. Yet despite this, they chose to do it because if they were trapped on Mars, Mark would make the same choice. Their extraordinary bravery shook the entire planet, and this heroic decision was not just a provocation to bureaucracy, but also the highest tribute and celebration to the value of life. However, the determined Sanders had to contact the Chinese Space Agency, and both sides quickly reached a consensus. Soon, China's super rocket made a spectacular takeoff along the eastern coastline. It's not only a challenge to bureaucracy, but also the highest tribute to the value of life, and Sanders' patience had reached its limits. The Chinese super rocket ascended, its fiery tail slicing through the sky, carrying the hopes and blessings of both nations. When it perfectly docked with the NASA ship in Earth's orbit, this moment was commemorated as a brilliant moment in the history of human space exploration. Meanwhile, Mark, gearing up for action, was making all the preparations, loading his stuff into the rover for a new adventure. Next, he would traverse the treacherous territory below to reach the War God 4 landing site. That was the only ride out available, and the whole process would take over 100 hours. He could only manage to take a brief rest when the rover required recharging due to low battery. However, just as Mark was about to reach his destination, NASA gave him a crazy order. Remove docking iron lid, replace with plastic. Scientific calculations show it's a fuel-saving trick. Otherwise, when breaking free from gravity, fuel would flow like a faucet left running. If they managed to rescue Mark, they would still be powerless due to severe fuel shortage unless they quickly lighten the docking module to enable it to accelerate away from the atmosphere. It felt like putting someone behind the wheel of a sports car and sending them into space. Although Mark felt deep down that the scientists had all lost their minds, the situation left him with no alternative but to take a leap of faith and go all in. Space mission getting ready to launch now. Due to the immense pressure, Mark quickly succumbed to dizziness, but he still pressed on even when the fuel ran dry. At that point, they were 6,800 kilometers away from the Hermes, a distance that screamed despair in space. The only solution was for Hermes to give, but at that relative speed, it could lead to a violent crash between the two ships. Mark didn't want to endanger all teammates for his sake, so he prepared to tow his spacesuit with a sharp object. He planned to use the leaking oxygen to fly towards Hermes. Even though Lewis initially protested, she couldn't help but accept it. Chemist Virgil ingeniously created the stunning bomb out of sugar, successfully unlocking the Hermes. Mark and Lewis were barely 200 meters apart, and they only had one chance. A miss meant losing forever. Mark held still. This scene was on the verge of becoming utterly explosive. Don't move, Mark. At this moment, the entire universe was holding its breath. I got it. I really got it. Success, fantastic. Awesome. We're ready to regain control and pull us back. Everything is set. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. More exciting content in the next episode.